It's with delightful pleasure that I would like to introduce you first speaker of the day, Professor Dr. Anubhuti Yadav, head of the Department of New Media and IT at the prestigious Indian Institute of Mass Communication at New Delhi. She holds an MSc in Journalism and Mass Communication and having subsequently got a PhD in Mass Communication from the Guru Jamheshwar University. Professor Yadav has thus far established her powers in the areas of new media, data journalism, advertising, and public relations. She has been involved with research on media with reference to women and children, media literacy, and the deployment of ICT in the new media, and she has presented several papers at the various national and international venues of conferences. She holds commendable positions of responsibility as course director of advertising and PR, as dean of students' welfare, and member of the executive council and academic council at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Professor Dr. Yadav also serves as advisor to the Reporters Without Borders Indian Initiative. She's a media ownership monitor. She is also the co-author of Digital International Media Literacy Projects, Indian edition of Media Literacy, key to interpreting media messages, and is currently working on her new book based on her experience of new media journalism. Her significant contributions to the media, both at the academic and outcome-based levels, has won her accolades, various accolades that include the Innovative Use of ICT in Education Award at the ICT Conclave on Education in 2016, the Public Relations Society of India Award for contributions to the mass communication education in 2018, the Women of Excellence Award by Women Economic Forum, and the Web Wonder Women Award bestowed by the Ministry of Women and Child Welfare of the Government of India for generating awareness on fake news and misinformation through Twitter. It's a proud opportunity for all of us to listen to her erudite perspective on curricular aspects of new media and the public relations. And she will be basically touching upon that and probably the impact of this kind of an approach to media education on the outcome, what is going to be of or related to the NEP 2020, because the whole seminar is revolving around the NEP 2020, and we all had an excellent one-day session with two very grand lectures by the two persons of eminence, women of eminence yesterday, thereby giving all the participants a total perspective on NEP 2020 and what it's holding good for the universities, academicians, and industry, and for the people. So, as a continuation of this is going to be more focused on a specific area. And I, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham deemed university and the Faculty of Arts, Media and Commerce and all the campuses of the Vishwavidyapeetham, which took the initiative, the Kochi campus here, the Mysore campus, and the university headquarters, Department of Mass Communication, and all the faculty and associated organizers of this conclave. I take this opportunity to heartily welcome Professor Anubhuti Yadav to our midst. On behalf of all of us, kindly accept our humble pranams. And now I request Professor Anubhuti Yadav to kindly take over and deliver her views on the topic. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir. And it's a great honor to be part of this initiative. There are a lot of workshops and training programs which have been conducted on national education policy. And I congratulate, Amrita University for taking this up because we feel that it's a very progressive, policy progressive document. And the institutes like Amrita, and as you've mentioned that, it's like it's ranked third as per NIRF, that is a National Institute ranking framework, to take these particular initiatives and to create awareness around national education policy, because the whole objective is to translate it to our curriculum, to our pedagogy, and I think the first step is to create awareness, to make teachers understand what exactly do we have in national education policy. So as the brief which was given to me for this particular session, I'll be talking about curricular areas in new media and public relations, because at IMC I teach both the subjects. I'm teaching new media. I'm heading the department of new media, and I'm also teaching public relations as a course director of advertising and public relations department at IMC. So I'll be touching upon, what changes are required as far as the curriculum of new media is concerned and the advertising and public relations is concerned. But before that, I would like to focus more on national education policy. I understand that, you already had some sessions on national education policy, but since I'll be looking at, these curricular areas, from NEP lens. So I would like to, talk about NEP a little bit, and then I'll take you through, what are we expecting as far as the changes are concerned in new media, public relations, and in fact, journalism and mass communication subject and discipline as a whole. So the first thing is, when we are talking about, right now there are a lot of teachers who are, joined, in this particular webinar training program on NEP. In India, as far as our education system is concerned, we've been facing a lot of problems. We've been talking about it, and these are the challenges which are reflected. Most of the documents which have been prepared by Ministry of Human Resources Development and the other organizations like NCERT, CBSE, UGC. So we were all aware of these challenges, and the challenges are like, say for example, there is a lot of inflexibility in our education system, and which is still there. For example, we were earlier also, and now also, we were expecting students to get up 8 o'clock in the morning, to reach college at 9 o'clock, and they'll be studying till 5 o'clock, and then they'll come back. This is a very inflexible system, though maybe like as the teachers, as administrators, we are used to it. But if we talk about students, they learn in a different way. There are certain students who would like to get up early in the morning and they would like to learn. There are certain students who are not a early riser, and they would like to learn something maybe like during evening or maybe like at night. So this the system is very inflexible, in which means that we are expected to learn within a time which the government has decided for us, or maybe like educational institute has decided for that. So that's one very important and very big challenge in front of all of us, that is like inflexibility in our system. The second challenge which we are facing is like the rigidity. Say, for example, when we talk about our examination system, everywhere, all the universities, you teach students for like 5 6 months, and at the end of that, you start taking examination, you are actually evaluating them. But there has to be a continuous evaluation. So that's another challenge which is being faced by all of us, and it goes for both school education as well as higher education. And the third thing is, the teaching has to be done in different languages. For example, I mean, you people are sitting in totally different state. The language which you use is different. Maybe like, in the class you might be speaking in English, but you do feel comfortable in your regional language. But the problem is that, we do not have content in regional languages. We do not have content in, the languages in which students would like to learn, in which maybe like the teachers in the regional area would like to teach. So the paucity of resources in different languages is a huge challenge which we have been facing. And as I said that, we've been talking about these challenges a lot for last so many years. But it's really nice to read national education policy at this point of time, wherein all these challenges are being mentioned there, and with the challenges, there is a solution. So this time, we have seen that, it's a solution based approach, that, okay, these were the problems which has been faced, and now these are the solution to those problems. So that way, I think, NEP, as I said earlier, it's a very progressive document. If it is translated well, it has a possibility of reforming the education system in our country. Um, I'm privileged that I have worked with some of the people who were, there in the drafting committee of national education policy. For example, Professor Vasudha Kamath, I worked with her when she was joint director of Central Institute of Education Technology, NCRT, and I spent around 6 to 7 years in NCRT, CIT, working in the area of educational media. And she coming from the field of education technology, ICT, and that's why I'm really very happy to see, the kind of coverage which is being given to ICT and education technology, and how the different subject should be embracing, technology. So this is like, just wanted to talk to you about, before I start with my presentation, that a lot of challenges, and the best part is that the solution is being offered in national education policy for that. So now I'll just take you, I have a presentation for the maybe like another 25 30 minutes. I'll take you through my presentation. And since there are a number of teachers from, journalism and mass comm department, and maybe like from other department also, then definitely I would like to take, questions from them, and maybe like, we can have a discussion on, the different points related to national education policy. Just give me a moment. I'll take you through my presentation. So, as I said, that I'll be looking at the curricular aspect of new media and public relations from the lens of NEP. But before that, a little bit about NEP and higher education. I'm sure that you've already read that, and I'm sure that some of the speakers have already talked about it. But I still would like to reiterate this, and like to share it with you. So the first point is, when we're talking about NEP and higher education, uh, this quality higher education, it says that must aim to develop good, thoughtful, well-rounded, and creative individuals. So here, the creative individual is the most important thing. Creativity is the most important thing, and this is what it has been emphasized in national education policy about creating those creative individual, not only the students, but also like creative individuals, as in like when we talk about teachers. So which means that how creative are we when we are researching on a one particular topic, or how creative are we when we are creating content for our students, or how creative are we when we are giving certain assignments to our students, and how creative are we when we evaluate a lot of content for our students. So somewhere this is the most important thing when we talk about national education policy, and what exactly it is emphasizing. And it must also enable an individuals to study one or more specialized area of interest at a deep level. That's the second point, which means like we're not only talking about one specialization, and in today's world we just cannot talk about one specialization. So for example, I teach new media. When I teach new media, I'm expected to teach data journalism. When I'm teaching data journalism, I am expected to know about maybe big data. I'm also expected to know about the different technologies, different languages using which I can create visualizations around those particular data sets which I'll be using for my story. So see, one particular area, I mean, data journalism, I mean, you can always say that, okay, data journalism, how you can tell stories through data. But even like this area expects me to have specialization in other area as well, which means like maybe coding, maybe programming. So so this is another thing, wherein we are expecting, people to study so that they have specialization in one or more, areas, and that too at a deeper level. And then also develop character, ethical and constitutional values, intellectual curiosity, scientific temper, creativity, spirit of service, and 21st century capabilities across a range of disciplines, which include science, social science, art, humanities, languages, as well as professional courses like us, which we people are offering, like journalism and mass comm, in technical and vocational subjects. So this is important, which means that we need to know about what are the 21st century skills which are required in a one particular discipline. I still remember, when I joined IMC, and I was like interviewed for two posts. One was integrated marketing communication, and then another one was new media. I got selected for both, and when the choice was given to me, I said that, okay, I choose new media. It's not because I had any ICT background. I didn't have that. I just worked in NCRT for some years, and I learned, this particular thing, in the process while I was working on number of projects. So, but the first thing which happened was, after joining as a professor of new media, associate professor at that point of time, when I looked at the syllabus, I was surprised. I said that, see, this is not the syllabus of a new media for the 21st century. You're only talking about computer application. This is not a computer application course. It's a journalism course. It's a communication course, and new media has to be looked at from that particular lens. And then we actually revised the entire syllabus, and in fact it was not a full course. It was a one particular paper in the different courses, and still like this is how we are running actually a new media course at IMC. And in fact, like we are planning to start a standard alone course very soon. And definitely, like whatever the point which has been raised in national education policy, we'll be integrating that when we are working on our syllabus. So which means that we need to create our syllabus. We need to work on a curriculum based on what kind of capabilities are being required at this point of time. And let me tell you one thing, that what we had in journalism and mass communication maybe like 50 or 60 years back, and now when we look at this discipline, I mean, it's a very dynamic, fast changing discipline, because the industry is fast moving industry. So a lot of things have been changed, and we need to remove a lot of things which we earlier had in our syllabus, and we need to include a lot of new things to make it relevant to the industry and to make it relevant to our students. So the second is like a quality higher education must enable personal accomplishment, and enlightenment, constructive public engagement, and productive contribution to the society. And this is something which we have to tell our students. This is something which we have to emphasize on each and every discipline. Even if like a student is doing a course in science, or maybe like a student is doing a course in political science, these are the things which are expected from them. Say for example, the medical students at this point of time, how well they had contributed at the time of the pandemic. These were all the students, but they were all out in the field helping people. Even like at the time of the vaccination, we have seen the number of students from the medical colleges. They've been helping doctors in the different hospitals. So, this public engagement, constructive public engagement, whatever the discipline is, it could be political science, it could be sociology, it could be medicine, it could be science. Say, for example, Ministry of the Government of India actually launched a campaign. For example, when this pandemic was there, and people were talking about at that point of time about vaccine, so they actually launched a campaign wherein they invited different ideas from the different universities, that how we can come up with the vaccine. They can collaborate with number of private institutes, or the private labs to come out with that, and a lot of students, a lot of professors participated in that. So constructive public engagement is very important, no matter what discipline are we coming from. And then of course, like the productive contribution to the society, and it must prepare students for meaningful and satisfying lives and work roles, and enable economic independence. That's the motive and objective of higher education, and this is something which is being said in national education policy. Now, at the societal level, higher education must enable the development of an enlightened, socially conscious, knowledgeable, and skilled nation that can find and implement robust solution to its own problem. I'll just give you one example here. Why I'm saying socially conscious. Um, for example, there is this controversy going on, and it's not a controversy, it's a fact that all these platforms like Google, Facebook, Twitter, they do capture a lot of our data, which they actually use for their different businesses, right? So if we are getting something free, it's not free, in the whole process, they are taking something from us. So if it is not money, if it is not subscription fees, they are taking our data, in the whole process. So there's this controversy which is going on, wherein the WhatsApp has changed its privacy policy. Now, the one is that as an individual, we can let it go. We can say that, okay, what all important information do we have? Whatever is there in the public domain, and we are not at all concerned about it. Second is that we do raise our voice, and this is what is happening, and that's why a lot of people who are socially conscious, they are moving to different platforms like Signal. They are moving to the platforms like Telegram. Many of them, they have actually deleted number of groups, and maybe like their WhatsApp account. So that's a socially conscious decision, which means that you cannot let people do things to you the way they want to do it. You have to raise your voice, you have to voice your opinion, you have to protect yourself, you have to protect your data, and that is the most important thing in today's world. Because when we are talking about the data, we're saying that the data is the new fuel, right? Data is like the new gold, and that is something which we need to protect. And this is what the higher education, whatever the disciplines are, should promote, and should tell our students to work on, and to maybe like think about and talk about. Then the purpose of quality higher education is therefore more than the creation of greater opportunities for individual employment. So for example, I mean, you would agree with me, as an educator, and like we also face this a lot at IMC. Whenever students come and join our institute, the first thing which they have in mind is that, okay, they've got admission in, Indian Institute of Mass Communication or Amrita University. So, their job is secured. I think that should not be the objective of, higher education or any teaching institute. So, but, the problem is this is something which is happening right now, and especially like the professional courses like us. Definitely job is important, definitely employment is important, definitely like they have to earn their living. But first and foremost is they need to understand the subject well. If they understand the subject well, using that subject, if they are contributing constructively to the society, I think our job as a teachers is done. So the purpose should not be only the creation of great opportunities for individual employment. It should be much more than that. It represents the key to more vibrant, socially engaged, cooperative communities, and a happier, cohesive, cultured, productive, innovative, progressive, and prosperous nation. And that is something which we should aim at. So now coming on to the challenges which we all of us have been facing in the field of higher education for quite some time, and the solution of which are being offered in national education policy. But see, when we read national education policy, it's very generic. Now we have to look, our own discipline from the lens of NEP. We have to see like what all can be implemented, whether it can be implemented or not. And if in case, like if you have to implement, what would be our the process which will be following to do that. So the first challenge was severely fragmented higher education ecosystem, and that all of us have seen. We have different universities, different departments, different disciplines, so everything is fragmented. But we know, when you talk about education, when we talk about knowledge, and this is something which we actually discussed long time back when I was working with CIT, and when we were working on a project which is National Repository of Open Education Resources, that the knowledge does not, it is not present in silos, right? You cannot balkanize that. Everything is connected with each other. For example, if you take a concept of water, water is something which can be taught in number of subjects. It can be taught in physics, it can be taught in chemistry, it can be taught in biology, it can be taught in sociology, it can be taught in political science. So which means that for our own convenience as a teachers, as a institutes, we have actually created different boundaries. We have created different compartments, silos for the different subjects, and hence the education system is severely fragmented. For example, we teach journalism in mass comm, but don't you think that this subject is equally important for those who are studying political science? The subject is equally important for those who are studying sociology. This subject is equally important for those who are studying any of the language. So that's a major problem, that instead of converging different disciplines, or integrating different disciplines, we have actually fragmented the higher education system. Second is less emphasis on development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. The focus, especially in higher education nowadays, it's not on that how much they are learning. It's like how much they are going to use, whatever they have actually collated and whatever they have documented, whatever they have stored in their brain to get a one particular job. So the emphasis is on the outcome of their degree, not on the process, the learning process which they go through, maybe like for 3 years when they are doing undergrad, and or like 2 years when they are doing a post graduation course. So that's another challenge which we are facing. And then yes, a rigid separation of disciplines, the one which we have talked about, sociology, political science, everything is connected, but still, we have separation of these disciplines. And again, early specialization. And this is something which I am actually facing right now. For example, my daughter is doing class 10. Now, see, at this age, there are certain students who are not clear, what are they going to do in life. So, like when you say that, okay, this is science stream, or this is humanities, this is commerce, and this is, another stream, it becomes very difficult for a student at this point of time to decide that this is going to be my specialization. And that is what we have done in the past for so many years. We have seen students who have done science, later on they moved on to social science and humanities. We have seen a lot of students who have done humanities, but yes, they had inclination to do something in maybe like science and technology and the related areas. So this is a very big problem, wherein we're talking about the earlier specialization and then streaming of students to narrow areas of studies. And that's why we always say, and the national education policy had said very clearly, that by one specialization, one need to have 2 3 areas which a student should be exploring. Then another challenge is limited access, and particularly in socially economic disadvantaged areas, with few higher education institutes that teach in local languages. And as I said at the beginning, that that's a huge problem. We have students studying in the different parts of the country, but right now the medium of instruction is like either Hindi or English, right? But the students who are, like, say for example, if the school education happened in maybe like the regional language, they would like to continue their education in regional languages. And if they are studying in their own language, I think they will be able to contribute much better to that area, or that area of uh, work, or maybe like discipline. So that is something which we need to do. Also, we do not have resources. There's paucity of resources. If you go to Google, try and find out resources, maybe like in Gujarati, or maybe like in Tamil, or maybe like in Kannada. We do not find too many resources. Yes, we do have a lot of resources in Hindi and English. So we also need to create a lot of content which is there in regional languages. For example, as I said, that when we were working on National Repository of Open Education Resources, at that point of time we talked about the content should be provided in the different languages, and that's why we release the entire content as an open resource, which means anybody can take that particular video or an audio or a text and can translate it and then share it back with us, and we'll put it on that particular repository. So we need to find out a mechanism using which a lot of content can be generated in different languages. And also we need to motivate our students. Of course, they would like to consume content, but say for example, in higher education institutes, we have students coming from the different regions, and they have expertise in different regional languages. Then they should also be motivated not only just to consume, but to create content in different languages, and maybe then share it with on YouTube, or maybe like translate articles which are already lying on Wikipedia or Google. These platforms, they have already initiated a number of things wherein they're translating content into different regional languages. So that's another thing. Then limited teacher and institutional autonomy. Well, yes, as a teachers and as an institute, we do not have that autonomy which we should be having, because, if we have that, a lot of things can be done. Till now, we've been actually limited to this whole process that, okay, if we have to make certain changes in our curriculum or in our pedagogy, we need to take approval. And, in the process, a lot of time is wasted, and we most of the time miss the train. So that is also which is there. But yes, I have seen number of institutes. Say for example, when we talk about IMC, IMC is an autonomous body. So if something new comes, we can make changes every year. As a teacher, I can propose that, okay, these are the things which we need to have in our curriculum, and this is something that needs to be deleted, right? But when we are there in the university system, and I suppose because like many teachers would be there from the university system, you might have to take approval for each and everything. So that the teacher should get that liberty. They should have that flexibility of creating their own courses, creating their own assignments, finding different ways to evaluate students. That should be available. Then inadequate mechanism for merit-based career management and progression of faculty and institutional leaders. This is a huge problem. I don't know about that area, but in Delhi, we have seen this a lot. There have been a lot of teachers who joined Delhi University as an assistant professor, maybe long time back. In the absence of career advancement, they are still there as an assistant professors. Imagine what kind of motivation that teacher would have to teach students, or maybe like to improvise, or maybe like to find out different innovative ways when they've not been promoted for so many years. So that is something which we need to look at. If we really want that the education system of our country should do well, then the teachers of our country should be handled well. They should be able to, contribute well only like when their interests are also taken care of. And then the lesser emphasis on research. Not much researches are happening in the different universities and colleges, and the problem is that the teachers, I have seen a lot of teachers who are interested in research, but they don't have funds to do those particular research. I don't know about universities. Definitely there might be a mechanism for that, but the institute like us, we do not have any research funding. Even if I want to do it, I won't be able to conduct that particular research. And that's why you see very few researches and good researches coming out from India, especially in the field of journalism and mass communication. We have not done a kind of work which we can showcase to the international community that this is something which is coming from India. And then, of course, large affiliating university resulting in low standards of undergrad education. There are universities and who had actually a lot of affiliated colleges. I have seen, universities, affiliated colleges, they are actually housed in one room wherein everything is done, and this has actually diluted the entire education system. So this affiliation thing is also very important, and one has to be very careful to whom you have to give affiliation and to how many. I mean, you cannot have 1,000 institutes affiliated to one university. That's not possible, and that's why we see the low standards, in undergrad education. So the policy envisions a complete overhaul and re-energizing of the higher education system to overcome these challenges and thereby deliver high quality higher education with equity and inclusion. And this is something they are saying. And of course, this is something which is required complete overhaul and re-energizing of the higher education system. So the policy vision includes the following key changes to the current system. The first is a higher education system consisting of large multidisciplinary universities. We have seen this in our country earlier. We had universities like Takshila, we had universities like Nalanda. They were all multidisciplinary universities and colleges, and they're saying that it should be there in every district, and with more higher education institutes across India that offer medium of instructions or programs in local and Indian languages. That's one thing. Then more multidisciplinary undergrad education. And as I said, that journalism and mass comm can be taught in different areas, different disciplines, so it has to be multidisciplinary. Then faculty and institutional autonomy. Yes, it's very, very important if we really want our education system to do well. Revamping curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and student support for enhanced student experiences. We need to revamp our curriculum. For example, when we are talking about journalism and mass communication, we just don't have to say that we just have to revamp our curriculum. We need to work on curriculum framework. For example, when we are talking about mass communication, I mean, this subject has started from the school education. For example, when you're talking about school education, in seventh and eighth, in social and political life, we do have chapters on mass media, we do have chapters on advertising. Then when student goes to class 11th and 12th, we have a separate subject on media studies. And when the student goes to graduation level, that subject is there, and then in PG that subject is there. Imagine, if a student starts to develop that particular interest in this subject in class 8, from class 8 to PG, if he or she continues with the subject, there are chances, and I'm saying that 80% of the chances that most of the stuff would be repetitive, because we do not have curriculum framework for journalism and mass communication. What should be taught at 5th grade, what should be taught at 7th and 8th grade, what should be taught at 11th, 12th, what should be taught in graduation, and what should be taught at PG level. Definitely when we are talking about PG level, we need to talk about specialization. And this is the challenge which we face. For example, I mean, I can tell this because I have worked both in the area of school education as well as in higher education. Um, for example, the students who opt for this subject in class 11th and 12th, in 11th and 12th, it is offered as an elective subject. When they go to graduation, when they start doing their graduation, the problem which they face is that they feel that this is something which they have already done, they have already covered in maybe like when they were doing their course in 11th and 12th. And when the same student goes to post graduation, they feel that everything is repetitive. So we need to look at curriculum very carefully, and we need to have a curriculum framework for journalism and mass communication. Pedagogy. See, the way we teach journalism and mass communication should be totally different from any other subject. It's totally practical, discipline. So we need to, find out different ways of teaching. And if you look at the universities, across the world who are offering courses in journalism and mass communication, we have very few courses which are journalism and mass communication courses with this particular name. They have niche courses. They have courses in maybe like social media for governance. They might be having a course on maybe data journalism, right? They might be having a course in visual storytelling, rather than that one umbrella term, and then you try and offer each and everything under that particular umbrella to our students. And that's why when they go to the industry, they go as like, okay, they know about this particular discipline, but when it comes to working, they're not skilled enough to participate in a one specialized project. Say for example, we do teach data journalism, but even now in our industry, we do not have too many good data scientists, data journalists. And even like our students are going, they can work at a one particular level, but beyond that they won't be able to contribute, because we have also not taught them very nicely and in a deeper manner when they were there in the college. So yes, pedagogy is something which is very important. Assessment is also important. How do we assess students? And that's why we say that as a teacher we need to find out creative ways of assessing our students, evaluating our students, rather than depending on that age old way of conducting exam at the end of the semester. Then of course, as I said, that there are no researches, so we need to have lot of researches. And the National Policy of Education, it has proposed National Research Foundation to fund outstanding peer reviewed research, and that is a very good move. And hopefully we people as a teachers will get certain funds to conduct research in our own area. Then increased access, equity, and inclusion through range of measures. Something which related to this has already been started when we started offering, online courses, when we are started putting courses on SWAM platform. See, this is a huge challenge, because if we talk about places like metropolitans, places like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, you do have a lot of good teachers, but you go to interiors, the subjects are being offered, but we do not have good teachers there. But all the students, I think they have this right of access to good teachers. So the initiatives like SWAM platform, it is basically we are taking those good teachers to their footsteps. So that's a very I think we should appreciate like the work which has been done by MHRD in this particular direction. And then of course online education, open distance learning, and all the infrastructure and learning material accessible and available to learners with disabilities. And I have seen there are a lot of students with different disabilities and differently challenged. They come and they would like to take up these particular courses. So they should also have access to resources. They should also have access to technology using which they can study, they can think of having their career in this particular area. So these are the visions. And now keeping all these things in view, I would like to look at, what is happening in our own discipline. Now, say for example, when we talk about journalism and mass communication, I think that's the discipline, and that's the term which we use, and this is a UGC approved title for this particular discipline. So if you try and find out, that model curriculum, for every subject, you have that model curriculum, which, the different universities, they try to adopt, they adapt, as per, their requirement. They can also change that particular thing, because this is something which is already written in the model curriculum. Now, see, journalism and mass communication model curriculum. If you go to UGC website, and you'll find a curriculum which is a nice curriculum, but from that perspective that, in 2001, when that model curriculum was developed, it was a good document. But something which was developed in 2001, and if, the institutes and the colleges and the universities are expected to adhere to that model curriculum in 2021, I think this is something which, should not be done. And as I said, that when we talk about media industry, it's very dynamic, it's changing every day. So we cannot have 2001 curriculum for, 2000, for the students who are studying in 2021. So the first thing is, we need to revise curriculum on the basis of what is happening right now in the media industry. And say, for example, I was reading this curriculum, and this said that, the first, and in fact, like, in journalism and mass communication, we are celebrating 100 years of media education. We have been organizing a lot of webinars, a lot of training programs, a lot of discussions. And of course, this is the time when we should appreciate the good work which has happened, and we should also see what we can do, and what we can do. And that is something which is very, very important and major, and which has a long term implication, is that we didn't even revise our curriculum for so many years. It's been 20 years. And in fact, I was just reading that, and that curriculum, it said that, the institutes started courses in journalism and mass communication in 1940s. From 60s to 70s, the curriculum was revised. A lot of institutions started offering. There were a lot of students at that time who came from the different universities from abroad. They also contributed to that. They also suggested that, the curriculum needs to be revised, and at that point of time, it was done. But that was the time when only 65 universities were there offering this particular subject. Right now, we are in 2021. We have 650 universities, about 35,000 colleges, and over 1,300 standalone institutions, out of which 300 universities and institutions in both public and private domains, they teach media and mass communication courses. And they are preparing around 20,000 students each year for the industry. So the first point here is that we need to revise that. We need to review that. As a media educators, we need to have a collective wherein we should propose that this is something that needs to be revised, keeping in view what has happened in the academics, which means, like, after the subjects had introduced at the school level, in different stages, and then also what is happening in the industry. So both ways, I mean, it has to be revised. So here, very quickly, I mean, this is something which you all know. Just want to know, like, how the things are moving and how the things are moving so fast when we're talking about the media industry. So this is the radio program 1924. Television began in 1959, and this is something which where we are today, right? Today we have, if we talk about the print market, it is the largest market in the world. And we have more than 70,000 newspapers which are being published from our country. 100 million of copies are sold every day. We have 690 plus satellite channels. We have 80 plus in news channels. When this model curriculum was framed in 2001, we might be having handful of television channels at that point of time, or newspapers. But see the scope right now. And then digital media, this is something which is a recent thing, and that's why when we are talking about new media, in that we are including digital media. And in fact, if you ask me as an educator, for me, new media is not about the technology. Definitely, like in new media, we are using internet as a base technology to create and to disseminate content. But for me, it's more of a creating content in new ways, or packaging content in a new ways. So for example, if something else comes after internet, we should not stop calling it new media. So new media in itself, the term, in fact, like a lot of people are having debates on this, a lot of people are having discussion on this, that whether we should be calling a one particular subject new media or not. So the moment we say that, when we are saying new media, it's a new ways of packaging of information, it will always remain same. So whatever technology comes, you use that to create content in a new innovative way. So the new media will always remain the way it is. So digital media also, for example, when we are talking about internet users right now, in India, we have more than 560 million internet users. We have smartphones users, millions of people who are there on smartphone. Then we have Facebook, then we have WhatsApp, then we have Instagram, then we have Snapchat. See, these are the new platforms which have come up, and young people are using these platforms. And in fact, like for them nowadays, the way people are consuming content is totally different from the way they used to do it earlier. I'll just give you one example, and that's from my own household. It's a nuclear family. We are four members in the family. And when my son, he was going to college, and when he went to college, in fact, at that point of time, what I did as a mother, and all mother would do, I said that, okay, let me send him a friend request on Facebook, and so that I'll get to know what's happening in his life through his post and whatever. And this is something, that anxiety is always there in all the parents. So I did that with him, and I told him that, see, I've sent you a friend request long time back. You didn't accept that. So he told me one thing. He said, Mama, I'm not on Facebook. I said, you do have an account. He said, I do have an account, but I'm not active there. I said, okay, fine. Then I asked him, I said, okay, tell me, where are you? He said that I'm on Instagram. I said, okay. But I was not on Instagram at that point of time. So I asked my daughter, who is in grade 10 right now. So I told her, I said, see, Bhaiya is on Instagram. So do one thing, you just connect with him on Instagram, so that, like, if in case, there's something happening in his life, and you can tell me about that, when you are connected with him on Instagram. So she said that, no, I'm not on Instagram. I'm on Snapchat. Now, see, one family, right, where four people are there. One is on Facebook, another one is on, Instagram, another one is on, Snapchat, and then my husband. I mean, he's an army officer, so he says that, like, we are not supposed to be there on any of the platforms. So I don't know what is happening, but this is a very important thing which is happening with each one of us. We have our own medium. It's not only like the kind of program which we are watching, but even like the medium which we are actually accessing is different for the different people. And that's why a lot of changes are happening. And because of this, a lot of changes are also happening in the media industry. And these are the major trends which are happening in media industry. The first one is that the newsrooms are using new ways to deliver information. So in this case, it's not only newsrooms, in fact, like entertainment also, they are actually using new ways. So for example, we are coming up with podcast, yeah, they're coming up with visual stories, mobile storytelling. They're coming up with infographics. So the earlier way, say for example, if you had the long story, people used to read that. People are no longer interested in long form narratives. They would like to consume content in a different way, and that's why they are every day they are trying to find a new ways to package information, and that is something which is coming from this whole idea that people would like to consume content in a wide variety of form. So that is one thing which is happening there. um, Second thing which is happening is that the internet traffic driven by mobile internet users. For example, and what does it mean for all of us? This means that we have to create a lot of content for this small screen. Nowadays, every morning when we get up, most of us, we don't even pick up newspaper, we don't watch television. The first thing which we do is we pick up our smartphone and we try and consume content from there. It could be from any platform or it could be from your social media. So which means that that has become a very important medium, that small screen, and we have to create content for that small screen, and that is something which has to be integrated in our curriculum, that how to create content for smartphones, how to create content for small screens. Then third important thing which is happening is that this digital media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, they are enablers of conversation, but the issue of misinformation is a big challenge. So when this new media came, being new media faculty, and many of you like who might be teaching new media, we were very happy, and we were actually sharing a lot of case studies wherein we said that, okay, see, new media has empowered people. It can help people even changing the government, wherein we were giving examples like Arab Spring and all. But with this, the challenges are also there. We were saying that it has democratized media landscape. Now the power to create messages and disseminate and publish those messages are not in the hands of few people. Anybody can create, anybody can publish stories. And in fact, like the people were saying that nowadays every individual who has access to smartphone have a newsroom in his pocket in the form of a smart phone, which means that you can record anything, you can and create anything, and you can put it out on internet for people to see. But with this, there are a lot of challenges. When it is available for anyone, then anybody can create anything. And that's why we are saying that any person who has access to smartphone is not only a consumer of media message, but he or she is also a potential producer of media messages, which means he can also create content. And that's why we see a lot of problem of misinformation, disinformation, fake news, because it has become so easy to create these media messages. You have cheap data plans available. You don't have to invest anything in creating your own YouTube channel, or maybe like Facebook page, or maybe like your own website. So that's the major trend, that this is something which news industry is actually grappling with. And we have seen many a times that even like this information, misinformation, journalists also pick up that content, they also fall for such misinformation, and then you see like what happens in the society. There many a times there were riots because of misinformation. Many a times people were lynched to death because of misinformation. Many a times people died because at the time of the pandemic we have seen a lot of people consumed certain thing and they died because of that. So that's a huge challenge which we are facing. And this is something which needs to be included in our curriculum. And not only new media, it should be there in everything. For example, advertising, for example, public relations. At the time of the pandemic, there was this rumor that, there were problem in, Amul centers. And, people had stopped, for a few days, buying Amul products. So even like public relations people, they need to be aware of that. People had stopped subscribing to the newspapers at that point of time, thinking that they can be a carrier for coronavirus. So it's not only for the journalism, but it should be integrated in advertising, it should be integrated in public relations, journalism, of course. So it has to be part of each and every branch of journalism and mass communication. Also, we've been conducting a lot of workshops for other subjects also. Um, at the time of the pandemic, we have seen that the people who are there in health fields, the scientists, doctors, they also need to be aware of this particular phenomenon which is happening across the world, wherein there is a lot of fake news, rumors, misinformation, and disinformation. So a lot of workshops have been conducted for the scientists also, for the doctors also in this area, and that's why what NEP says, say for example, multidisciplinary, that is something which is very, very important. Then last point is audio and video leading online traffic generators. People have stopped reading. I'm not saying all of them, but majority, and especially like young people, they instead of reading, they would like to listen and they would like to watch. So we need to create a lot of audio content. We need to create a lot of video content. I've seen students, if they want to learn something, they record it first and they just go out, go for a walk. They are listening to that particular thing, and that's how they are learning right now. So as a teachers also, it's our responsibility to create content in audio formats, in video formats. Now coming on to new media curriculum, what it should have. It should develop in students an understanding of new media and enable them to appreciate potentials and limitations of new media. So this whole understanding of new media is something which is very, very important. And frankly speaking, I've been interacting with number of professors, or maybe like people working in the field of digital space. There is no understanding of this discipline, new media, what exactly it is all about. So sometimes they are only limited to that, okay, anything to do with the new technology is new media, and some would say that, okay, something which is digital is new media. And as I said, and there are such different school of thought, and that's okay to have different schools of thought, but still there should be one understanding on what exactly this particular area is. Then we need to develop in students an understanding of the impact of new technologies. For example, when we talk about Google, when we talk about Facebook, when we talk about WhatsApp, what is the impact of these platforms on individuals? Also on society. Say, for example, the way we communicate with each other has totally changed nowadays, right? On Facebook, we might be having too many friends, but when we are at the time of the crisis, we might not even see two people, helping us, at the time of the crisis. So this is actually impacting not only us at an individual level, but also at a societal level, like how people in the society, they are interacting with each other, and what is the impact of this, on society, and also provide them with skills and knowledge to able to think critically and creatively about new media. And these two terms, critical thinking and creativity, is like very key terms which are being used in national education policies. When I'm saying critically, whatever comes our way, we need to question that. We need to ask question. We need to challenge that particular thing. I think that should be the essence of this. And then, of course, like creatively about new media, because new media actually offers you number of tools, applications, technology, using which you can uh, create content in a wide variety of form and for anyone. For example, as a teacher, we can create maps for our students, we can create podcasts for our students, we can create visual stories for our students, we can create infographics for our students, and which is not at all difficult. Just that we need to spend some time with a one particular tool, and we'll be able to do that. And then, of course, we talked about not much researches are happening, and especially in new media. Frankly, there are no researches which are happening, because it's a new medium. We're still struggling to find out what exactly it is. So of course, like not many researches. We are concentrating on how to teach our students right now. But yes, we need to conduct lot of research. We need to participate in new media researches. We need to have a collective of faculty members who have interest in this particular area, so that the researches could be conducted in collaboration with the different faculty members also. And then we also we have to involve our students in the research. We've been doing a lot of research in the field of journalism and mass communication, uh, wherein the students were supposed to do as part of their dissertation and all. Now we should start giving a lot of topics related to new media to our students, because there are a lot of things which are happening and that needs to be explored. So this time, when advertising students, they were conducting research, I've given them a lot of topics which is around new media. For example, OTT platforms, for example, data privacy. So these are the areas which students are exploring right now. Then to develop skills to encourage the production of media messages using variety of digital tools. I've already talked about that. There are variety of digital tools. They should be producing media messages, not just for as part of their curriculum, that at the end of it they'll be evaluated for that. The product should be so good that it should be put out on internet as a resource, as an educational materials for others to use. So this should be the objective. For example, I do have this exercise with my students wherein I teach them about Twitter and how you can start a conversation on Twitter and how you can contribute to society constructively, something which we talked about when we were talking about national education policy. So last time, they actually work on national education policy. So that's the hashtag which I gave them. And I said, you need to put out infographic related to national education policy. And they did that. Imagine 75 students tweeting about that particular hashtag. And this time also, we are going to do the similar exercise. So it's not limited to our department, it's not limited to our library. If they're doing something, the content has to be so good that it should go out in public and everyone should see that. And if it is not good, it's okay that if people are telling that it's not a good quality, so students will get feedback not only from the teacher and his or her peers, but also from the audience. So that is something which we are encouraging and that needs to be encouraged. And then of course, what are the career opportunities in new media? That is something which we need to tell our students. Now, looking at the curriculum, as I said initially, I mean, I found new media curriculum was more often computer application thing, so you need to change it totally. But now these are the major, you can say, papers or you can modules which can be part of new media curriculum. But see, when you look at this, each one of this can be part of any other course also. And I think when we are talking about multidisciplinary, this should be the issue. We should have a repository of modules. And say, for example, if someone is taking new media as a specialization, we have to make only 5 modules compulsory as that. And the rest of that, they can take from other subjects. And students who are studying other subjects can also take module from this one. So when we are talking about new media, these are the modules which comes to my mind that should be taught to students in detail. Communication, yes. Understanding media, yes. They need to be aware of the entire media landscape. New media and society, the impact of new media on society. Internet as a medium, which means the technology part of it, the digital infrastructure, how it actually works. Then of course, media laws and ethics, new media laws and ethics, IT laws, and other acts. For example, like when we talk about fake news and all, so we usually say that the online regulatory mechanism in our country is not very strong. So in that case, we also need to know about the other acts. Say, for example, at the time of the pandemic, a lot of people were arrested quoting National Disaster Management Act, because at the time of the crisis, you cannot spread rumors. And this is something which is there in NDMA. It might not be there in maybe like IT Act. So all the acts, related to online and whatever is happening in a digital space, should be part of this. Then online research, there's so much of content available. When we're talking about research, see, we do not have to scratch each and everything. We do not have to start each and everything from scratch. We should depend on something which has already been created. right? So pick up areas, and pick up content which is already there, and then do research and use online methods for that. Then online journalism, of course, that in itself is a huge discipline, and in fact, like most of the traditional media houses are moving towards online journalism. In the West, number of newspapers have actually stopped publishing as they moved on to online journalism. Then multimedia reporting and editing. So like, what are the skills required for that? And nowadays, it is said that the students should have those multi skills. You cannot expect to have, okay, I have specialization in radio. No, if you are writing a story, you might be expected to convert that into an audio format. You might be expected to convert that into a video format. You might be expected to convert that into an infograph. So you need to have those multi skills. So multimedia reporting, then writing for new media, of course, like it's totally a different ball game, like when we're talking about writing for the new media platforms. Then web development, this is something very important. For example, learning coding, programming is important right now for the students of journalism and mass communication. And in fact, like if you go to the universities abroad, they've started courses in coding for journalists. So this is something which we have to do for our students. And in fact, in this, say for example, why can't we take this particular module from something which is happening in an engineering course? So that flexibility has to be there. Why should I offer everything? Now, if that course is available somewhere else, let me take that course from that university or from that particular course. So that flexibility should be there, which NEP is proposing. Then social media and citizen journalism, digital marketing is something which is very important. Digital PR and corporate communication, big data, then data journalism. See, there's a lot of data available, using which you can do a lot of research, using which you can write a lot of stories. So that is something which needs to be done and which needs to be taught to our students. Frankly speaking, at this point of time, there are a number of people whom I know, they've started teaching data journalism. But if you look at this particular subject at a deeper level, then you know that it requires a lot of time. At IMC, we do have this as part of the module, but we just take 2 or 3 classes. Data journalism cannot be taught in 2 or 3 classes. It needs to be at least like 3 month course or a 6 month course. So that is something which we need to look at. So the whole idea is, just don't introduce the students to one particular subject just because they need to know about it. We have to dig deeper with our students to learn as much as we can related to this particular subject. Then new media and development, the role they are playing in development, digital cinematography, and then of course, this is like what we do in most of our courses, dissertation attachment with digital platforms and all. So this is how I look at new media curriculum now. And but I'm saying that these are the modules which are available. If someone, for example, is studying political science, that student can take maybe like course on laws and ethics. If someone is studying sociology, that student can also pick up a module from here, which is new media and society. So this should be the way if we follow a national education policy. Coming on to the pedagogy. So, okay, blended learning, I'm skipping one slide because of the paucity of time, and I would like to leave some time for the questions. Pedagogy, we've been talking about it. Till now, we've been focusing more on face to face. At the time of the pandemic, we have realized that the blending learning is the new normal, and for many of us, I mean, it did work. Which means you can have face to face plus you can have online classes. And in our country, I mean, maybe like it is considered as a new normal. But when we talk about other universities, they've been offering courses in a blended mode. So this is something which we can explore. Not now, but at the time of pandemic, we've been forced to adopt this method of learning. But we should continue with it because it has its own advantages, and we can leverage on that. So there are a number of models of blended learning. Say, for example, many of us, we were doing blended learning even earlier. For example, in the classroom, when we were having this face-to-face interaction, and then we used to tell them that, okay, read this book, or watch this video and come back again and we'll talk about it. That was also a part of blended learning. So in this, classroom engagement is the most important thing. Second is like the blended learning, blended blocks. Say, for example, you offer something, something which we are doing right now. The first semester is completely online. Then you have students on campus, offline, and then maybe like if required again online. So this is like blended blocks. And then you have fully online, a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. That's also blended. So if it is an online course, so part of that would be synchronous, wherein you'll be having live sessions, live chats, interaction with your participants, and the rest of this is in a self-paced or asynchronous mode. So benefits and challenges, of course, benefit is like it provides opportunities for collaborative learning, improved accessibility, communication improvement, assessment strategies. You can have different assessment strategies, but the challenges which many of us are facing right now, and the biggest challenge which I'm facing right now, and which I tell to all my students, whenever I start taking classes, that see, I've been teaching for the last 1 year, almost a year online, but I'm still not used to talking to these circles when I don't see people's faces on screen, and I just see those circles and icons and just their names. So I just feel that I'm talking to the screen and I'm not talking to the individuals. So these are the challenges which we people are facing as the teachers, and in fact, students are equally like burdened with this. They're also facing online learning. It's very stressful many a times, because you're spending a lot of time in front of the screen. And then IT knowledge, of course, you need to have. Then lack of self-pacing and self-direction, if it is a self-paced course. So maybe like you won't go to that particular course for a week or 2 weeks, and then later on you will try and find out, uh, try to do the entire thing in one go. So these are the benefits and challenges of blended learning. So I think that's all for me right now, because there's a lot to this presentation. But yes, new media I have covered. But I would also like to mention about public relations, because hello.
Yes, ma'am. You can
Yeah, yeah.
continue.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. I would also like to talk about public relations, because in public relations, also in PR industry, there's a lot happening. I've been in touch with best of the PR agencies right now, and I've seen they have totally changed their way of functioning, and especially like at the time of the pandemic, they have realized that yes, they can continue with certain things which they have adopted at the time of the pandemic. For example, organizing online events. Yesterday only I was attending this one event, which is an online conference organized by Brand Equity. And in fact, the kind of experience which I had attending that particular conference was like the way I used to have when I used to visit it in person. Of course, you couldn't meet people and all that problem was there, but yes, it saved a lot of my time, and it saved a lot of resources. So people are moving on to a lot of stuff which is happening online, and this is something which all of them, they were talking about, that even post pandemic there are a lot of things which are going to remain the same, which means like a lot of things will be happening online. So which means in the field of PR also, say for example, organizing online events, that is something which we have to start teaching our students. It was not there earlier because we never ever did that thing in the past. So that's one thing. Second is, when we are talking about public relations and all, again, at the time of the pandemic, we have seen, a lot of fake news, misinformation around different brands, different services. So we need to include, the module on fact checking and verification for them too. We've already started, conducting workshop for them, for the professionals from PR industry, and I think that's very fruitful for them. So these are the few things which we also need to include in public relations sector also. But In the last, I just want to say that, as a teacher, we have to be very, very sensitive towards the needs of our students. We have to be very responsible in the sense that what national education policy has proposed, it is our duty, it is our job to translate it, to execute it. And if we can't do it in person, because many a times we might have to take approval, we should also propose, certain ways of conducting research, certain way of, curriculum designing, or maybe like pedagogy related issues to our administration, so that at least like something can be done. And I'm sure that it's going to reform education system if we execute at least like half of what is mentioned in national education policy. So thank you so much. This is all I have for you right now. Though I wanted to talk about PR also in detail, but we do not have that much of time. And now I would like to take questions from.
The session is now open for interaction. Participants can raise your hand in Teams if you have questions. Please do mention your name and institution.
Have your questions and how to have an interaction with the Professor Dr. Anubhuti ma'am. Yes, Reshmi ma'am. Yes. Unmute your mic and you can speak with Anubhuti ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it
Yes.
audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, good
It was
afternoon.
actually a wonderful session, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, I would like to ask one question. Like, I was been handling public relations for the visual media,
Mhm.
like for MAJMC and AAA
Mhm.
in Visual Department of Visual Media. Kindly excuse me, since I have a very bad cough. So my question is that, ma'am, many students used to raise the question that why there is an inclusion of public relations in AAA as well as in MAJMC as a subject. These question was raised to me by the students. So I have always substantiated my part of clarification, my part with my clarification, but I would like to genuinely hear from you, ma'am, the importance of including public relations as a part in Department of Visual Media and Communication, as well as I would always suggest that this is, in fact, a very vastly developing subject, which needs more importance, because without public interaction, without knowing the pulse of the public, whatever goes into the public doesn't get bothered. So I would
Yeah.
like to hear from you, ma'am, how the students could be, made more clarification, could be given more clarification on the importance of making this as the most valid paper.
I got your question, Rashmi. So, what we have to do is, as you yourself said, that see, when we are talking about public relations, we are talking about communicating with publics only, right? So, for example, if I'm talking about journalism also, nowadays, in fact, this like whole demarcation, and, the boundaries between, the journalism and advertising and public relations, that has become very blurred. For example, nowadays, even the reporters, even if you're there in the field of journalism, you need to interact with your public. Say, for example, you are interacting with your audience. Nowadays, even the journalists, they are using number of ways like crowdsourcing ideas. When a journalist, when a reporter is crowdsourcing an idea wherein he is putting things on social media handle, and he's trying to find out from the readers what exactly they would like to read or what exactly they would like to watch. So in a way, what he or she is doing is public relations, right? He is
Yes.
or she is communicating with public. So public relations, yes, one is the discipline wherein you go and join public relations company, agency. That's okay, fine, that's one way. But it is important for all the areas. Even as a journalist, it is important. say for example, if you are there in the political communication, it is equally important for you. And nowadays there are a lot of jobs, especially like my public relations students, they say that, ma'am, there are a lot of offers from the political parties and candidates, because everyone, they want that public relations officer with them. So it's very important part of communication paper, or like this area, and the course in journalism and mass communication. Because because of this, you actually learn how to communicate with the people who are important to you as an individual, who are important to you, maybe like when you're talking about an organization. So I think it's a very important area nowadays. And advertising, still I feel that, okay, everybody is little apprehensive and skeptical about advertising, because that this is something which is being paid for. But public relation is something which is being used by each and every one. As an individual, you need to have good public relations skill. So this is how you have to tell them that, as an individual, and in fact, like if you go to any area, say for example, if I am there in the field of education, and if I have a lot of followers on maybe like Twitter or Facebook, that means that I actually invested a lot in my public relations. So one is that, yes, you can have career in that, and the second is that this is in fact a 21st century skill which each one of us should be having.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, sure,
In
ma'am, I
fact,
have a
in
question.
fact, in fact, you're saying journalism and mass communication. I would say that we need to have public relations course, maybe like for the people who are doing a course like B.Ed and M.Ed, which means that who are doing education course, so that they know how to handle their own people, their students. So the public relation is something which is very important right now, and we need to have a course in that. And of course, if you compare it with the with advertising, in terms of the kind of jobs which are there, and the amount of remuneration which are, though I mean, I'll keep this as the last point to tell you like why you should tell your student. But still, you have one lot of jobs, and the remuneration which is paid to PR officials as compared to advertising and journalism is much more. So that could be one another reason to convince your students to learn about public relations.
can I ask you a question, ma'am? This is something with regard to the at the strategic level of structuring the, to be very specific, structuring the syllabus itself, syllabus and the curriculum. Now, as per the NEP 2020, one student who passes out from the probably the 10th standard or maybe even 8th standard, if he want to align himself into the media field, especially the digital media field, he can start the alignment right from the, even from the 8th standard onwards till the 12th standard onwards. Such a student, when he joins the first year of the degree program, he is already very much in tune with that and aligned, totally aligned to that. Now, as far as the postgraduate program level of the journalism is concerned, now we have students from different streams. For example, BSc Physics, Mathematics, Languages, even zoology or botany. Student can join at the postgraduate level for the journalism and the mass communication. Now there is a freedom for that, and that freedom will still exist, will still continue to exist, even in the NEP structure. So, uh, will there be a knowledge divide between those who have a total passion for this field, developed a passion for this field right from the age of maybe 12 or 14, and a person trying to align with this field at the age of 20, the 6 years of knowledge gap? So how should we take care of that when
Okay.
we structure a syllabus according to the NEP 2020? This I
Okay.
am talking to you because I am speaking from my experience. My field is computer science. So
Okay.
I'm talking to you just like a layman.
Okay. Okay. Right. I got your point. So there is like one student who started exploring this subject maybe like from eighth onwards, and when that person enters like PG, so that's one case. And the second is like someone who has done maybe like BSc physics or BSc chemistry, and then person decides to do a PG course in communication. So what would be the difference? See, uh, knowledge gap, I don't know, but for me, say for example, if someone is coming from after doing graduation, maybe like in political science or maybe like in any of the science stream, and when the person is joining PG, then we have to offer course in a different way. We cannot offer the same course to these students also, because for example, if someone is coming from the science stream, we need to have PG courses in maybe like science communication, right? Say
Oh,
for example, if someone is coming from computer science field, the field which you are coming from, and when then person joins PG course, then our focus should be more on that, whatever knowledge he has gained in the last 3 years, that should also be utilized, rather than just doing away with whatever he has learned in last 3 years and then teaching him something new. So
okay.
somewhere I think we need to find out ways in which whatever knowledge they come up with, that should be utilized in the course which they are doing. And yes, in between, what we can do is we can have a small bridge course. For
Okay.
example, if you're saying that some people coming with the 5 years of knowledge of this mass communication and journalism, and when they are doing PG, so for the other students we can have a small bridge course wherein they've been introduced to all the basics. Otherwise, what will happen in the PG level, if we start teaching the basics to these students who are coming from the science stream, then the other students will feel
Uh,
a little disinterested, because these
correct.
students, they have already done that. For such
Okay.
students, what we can do, we can have a separate bridge course, and then they can be integrated into the PG course.
So those
And then
students will, that means there have to be some kind of there has to be some kind of a differential mode which can be
yes,
accommodated through some fractal courses and things like that.
absolutely,
So that will be
absolutely.
that should be optional. And why I'm asking this question is we are in the process of now modifying the entire curriculum and restructuring the curriculum and syllabus.
Mhm,
So we have come to that point now. So how do we take care of this? Because UGC and other apex bodies will have a particular structure, particular credit requirement, particular structure, compulsory learning segment in every
mhm,
structure of curriculum. So
mhm,
we have to accommodate that as well as these kinds of pressures.
yes.
It's not a pressure. These kinds of the open learning system. There should be
Mhm.
a gap provided for that. So
Yes. So maybe
okay.
what we can do is like a bridge course, and that could be an online course, and then yes, like they can be
That's good.
integrated
That's
with.
good. So that
Yeah.
it is not affecting the other students. Correct.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
good suggestion. Good suggestion. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. There is one question from Praful Dev. This during your presentation, you expressed slight apprehension if this policy translates to action over the implementation of NEP 2020. Is there still long way to go? Your comments through PR perspective.
See, apprehension in the sense, why I said that, because I don't know how many educators in higher educations they have read it. Right. This is something which I personally feel has to be done by the teachers. Right. So right now, what I'm seeing is that the people who are there in the ministry, they are talking about it. Heads of the institutions, they are also talking about it. But somewhere, it has to be at the level of the teacher who is actually delivering that particular course. Say for example, when you talk about public relations, and now there is this one very important thing of critical thinking in national education policy, or like inculcating that creativity. So this is something which can be done by us only, like others won't be able to do it. We've been given policy. Now, like, to implement that, I think we as a teachers have to play an important role in this. And that's why I said that the apprehension is that I don't know how many teachers might have read this national education policy. So, for example, if you're teaching a PR subject, please just go through that and see like what is it there in national education policy which you can integrate in your curriculum, which you can integrate in your pedagogy, which you can integrate in your maybe like assessment and evaluation of your students. So this is something which has to be done by us. And the only apprehension is, I don't know how many people have read this and are aware of the nitty gritties of national education policy.
Some part of it I have read it, and I see that there is a lot of flexibility allowed.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now I have not gone through the media curriculum, but computer science and all, it allows lot of streams and flexibilities. It is allowed. Yeah. So quite naturally, the media domain also should be having. I'll go through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now invite Dr. U. Krishnakumar, the director, to thank the guest.
Okay. So on behalf of the university, on behalf of the Faculty of Media Arts and Commerce, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and profusely thank for sharing so much of knowledge and so much of insight into the people who are just going to get into the revision of syllabus structure, etc. How do we go about doing it? Though the NEP 2020 document, it's a vast document, it's a very broad document, and you have thrown light into the intricacies of as far as media education is concerned, and the scope, at least for the next 5 years, is concerned. So we will definitely note it down, and we will definitely look into those aspects. And once again, I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to you for having found time more than 2.5 hours with us. And thank you on behalf of all of us. Thank you so much. And all the best.
Thank you very much.
Wish you all the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for having me for this program.
Nice.
Thanks.